everyone wants to know how big they can get naturally. And truth be told, I think most of the time this is because they want to find their natty max to basically just take steroids. It's an excuse. They don't actually want to know how big they can get. They want to have it something really, really small and, not, I wasn't expecting that. I wanted something a bit more. I thought I'd be able to get better with my genetic. They're just trying to find something like that so they can cope, and then they can instantly hop on when they're like 16 years old. I remember the first time I saw the muscle gain chart and it looked absolutely ridiculous. It didn't make any sense. Like, it was something like 2 pounds of muscle each month in the first year, and then it was down to 1 pound of muscle the next. And it just, like, obviously we all understand newbie gains. Very, very quick, very, very fast. But at the same time, I've seen guys who have blown up and had almost like a second newbie gains period just by changing their training style. And the more I think about it, I realize that this whole arbitrary scale means absolutely nothing. It genuinely means absolutely nothing. Because think about it, that's not even what it's about. There's also proximity to your peak. Like, let's say there is potentially a genetic peak, which obviously there would be. But if you're very, very skinny, very, very underweight, you're going to have to build more muscle. And you're probably going to get it quicker. Because if you're below your genetic baseline of muscle mass because of just poor lifestyle, you can get to that genetic baseline very, very quick. And so your progress there will be a lot quicker than guys who, been athletic all their life. They do American football or something, and now they've just decided to start hitting some weights in the gym. Those guys will, be building muscle a bit slower, but their baseline's already better because they're actually performing above baseline. See, this is the thing. This whole muscle gain chart doesn't really make any sense. But if we think about it too, it doesn't bear any sort of meaning, right? Because everyone's going to have a different muscular peak based on literally your wrist size and your ankles are already two things that can determine literally how much mass you can put on your lower and upper body. And this isn't given account for. Like, it's such a ridiculous chart, and I don't know why people are so quick to believe it or have it as something that you should aim for, because it's not realistic. You could say it undershoots it, you can say it overshoots it. It doesn't really matter. The point is, it's not accurate. And we can say, it's a good thing to use for people in general because it works in general, but it doesn't. It doesn't actually work in general. It doesn't fit most scenarios. What typically happens is the guy who goes to the gym for the first year is training awfully. He gets his newbie gains and he continues training awfully and neglecting muscles, and it goes down and down and down. But then, what you don't even see on this chart is there's almost like a plug-in chart, which is the second they start training properly, and it's literally like the first year of progress again. And then sure, things go down and down, but if they hit a muscle which is very underdeveloped, something they haven't targeted much, let's say for example the rear delts weren't hit properly in like your youth, the back wasn't hit properly, the hamstrings, the calves, the second you start training those, you can put on a ton of muscle very quickly because it's miles behind everything else. And let's say you never hit calves before, you would get that 1 year worth of calf growth, the thing the muscle gain chart says at the beginning, whatever, you would get that even if you're like 10 years in. So you see what I mean? It doesn't really make much sense. But here's what I want you to take away from like this entire video. If you're going to take one thing away, I want you to shoot for the moon and land among the stars. That's basically a saying where you put your goals very, very high. You're trying to get to the moon. But if you don't make the moon, you're still landing in the stars, which is in many ways honestly better. And this is like a similar principle you've got to have. You've got to have very, very high goals, very high expectations. But there comes a second saying into this almost. And there's this whole story. I completely forgot it. But it was this prisoner of war in like some Russian gulag or something. And every day they were being beaten and tortured, and everyone was suffering with him. And he survived. And a couple other guys survived. And when they asked him how he did it, you'd expect something like, oh, he never gave up. He knew he was going to be rescued. Because that's the sort of thing you'd assume keeps you going and going and going. But what he told them was that him and the other guys, he kind of set an example for these guys, they accepted they were in hell. And because they accepted it, it couldn't faze them. But at the same time, they had hope that they were going to be rescued. And apparently, according to them, all the guys who were like, yeah, tomorrow they're going to come save us. The Americans are going to come in, they're going to break open this prison and we're going to be free. All those guys broke instantly. They could not survive. They could not handle it because as the days go by and every single day they're expecting someone to save them, every day it doesn't happen. It's worse and worse and worse. So that's the kind of thing you got to have. You got to have hope that you're going to reach this immaculate physique, but you cannot be attached to results, because that's when body dysmorphia comes in. The guys who every single day are trying to look in the mirror and see if they're changing and they don't see any changes, they're getting demotivated on their mission. And we could skip this forward in 3 years and they would be so content with what they see in the future. That's guaranteed for everyone. If you look at your future self, you will always be happy with it because there is actual clear progress. But you can't rely on your day by day. That's absolutely stupid. Like, you're getting better each and day. Imagine you look to your bank account now, and tomorrow you're about to get hired in this huge company, and you see that you have no money, and you're like, oh, I'm so broke, I'm such a loser, what am I doing? Like, I'm not going to make it in this life. I'm doing awful. And you're about to come on for a 6-figure position. Like, that would be idiotic. But for some reason, when it comes to the physique, we just completely ignore this and we work by day. It's crazy. You will get there. And I can't eliminate body dysmorphia. Of course, it's probably going to be present if you're someone who's prone to that sort of thing. I can't get rid of it. But this mentality is how you mitigate it, how you handle it. Because when it comes to me and I look at myself, I'm like, okay, I can see where I'm weak. I can see where I'm strong. I'm kind of seeing it objectively. And yeah, there'll be days where I look at myself and I'm like, you know, I wish I was using straps properly. I wish my back was bigger. I wish I'd taken legs more seriously. I wish I'd done more on my chest. You know, of course there are days when that happens. But you can't really let that stay around. You can't let that linger. You can't let that manifest. Honestly, if I could do something, and I'm going to start doing this now, actually, I'm going to start journaling these thoughts down. I'm going to get them out of me instantly because I don't want them to linger. I don't want them to manifest. I don't want them to stay inside me. Because imagine you go through your life believing that you have awful chest genetics and you can't build a chest. What's going to happen? That belief is going to reinforce in your habits. You're going to be lazy with your chest sessions. You know you're not going to make a difference anyway. You're not going to go out and learn how to train the chest properly because you assume that it just doesn't work for you. You know, it's a genetic weakness. And then you never get that chest. And not only do you not get that chest, but it starts sneaking into your other muscle groups. If you're demotivated on this one thing, yeah, it's probably going to sneak into the rest of your sessions because you notice how it's disproportionate. Maybe subconsciously you're trying to bring down other parts so they can match up with your chest. It's really not a great position to be in. And that's why you have to have hope. But you have to accept that you are in hell. I mean, the gym itself is kind of hellish. Like, yeah, we enjoy it, but you're literally torturing your body. You're putting it through a ton of stress. And that is awesome. When I did my previous cut, I wasn't cutting properly. I also wasn't training properly. And it left me feeling like genetics were a huge part. And it left me feeling like genetics had a huge part to play. Like, I was literally looking at myself and I was like, oh, I'm not getting lean. I haven't actually built much muscle. I feel like I'm the same as I was back before. I wasn't. I was definitely above. But it's the fact that all this stuff had come in and combined. And just because I wasn't doing things correctly, it led to me being very demotivated. Like, I didn't want to go as often. And of course, that snowballs into me getting worse results. And what did it come down to? My training was awful. Too much volume, not enough intensity. Those two things are pretty much all that matters when it comes to training, in honesty. Like, the other stuff I talk about here, you know, different techniques, different movements, stability. Of course, all that matters, but we're talking about the last 10% when it comes to those. When it comes to the things that's actually moving the needle, you got to worry about intensity and volume. And the guys who mess that up and focus on everything else, whether that be stability or exercises or eliminating redundancy in the movements that are picked, they will not make any progress if their volume and intensity is not dialed in. And it's the fact that those are the actual guys who will be overtaken by people doing literal, like, the worst sort of workout ever, which has volume and intensity. That's kind of crazy. I just wanted to let you know that, and I really hope you take that away. But the point I'm trying to say is that was my training. And then when it came to my nutrition, I was barely getting enough protein. When it came to my sleep was subpar. And honestly, nutrition, it comes down to not enough protein, not enough consistency in actually eating. Some days I just wasn't eating, not enough calories. And then it all loops in with not being consistent in the gym. And yeah, I didn't look that great at the end. Is that a surprise? There is a photo of me a month before everything derailed in the cut. And I look spectacular. My back looks the best it ever has. I'm so happy with it. And then the month after, when you would expect the back to look better, because obviously it's leaner, my back actually was worse. It was less lean just because of how awful I was training and eating and sleeping. And this is my point. You can't have this belief that like your genetics are holding you back. You can't have the belief that you'll look mid with your genetics because you haven't actually taken them through properly. Not only are you probably not training properly, and you can actually watch something in the corner, which is kind of like a workout plan that I could put together for you to make things really easy, but you're probably not eating properly. And again, there'll be another video, it'll probably be the end card as well, on actually putting together a diet properly. Sleep, I don't have something yet, but that's coming very soon. It's fairly easy though. Obviously, you can track that with something like Chronometer. But if you're not doing these things and you're blaming your genetics, the genetics aren't the problem. You are the problem. You need to hop on that grind and you need to stay consistent and the results will come. We don't have to care about the natty peak right now because you're going to get there. And when you get there, you'll realize how much higher it ever was compared to your actual limitations you are putting on yourself. If you really struggle with consistency, I want you to literally plan the days you're going to the gym. Like, I want you to stick to something like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, instead of something like every X days, purely because it'll be easy to fit it in. And I want you to never skip. It doesn't matter if it's a wedding, it doesn't matter if it's a funeral. I want you to get in the gym. And when this has become an automatic habit, then we can consider like switching to every X days or something. But right now, we just need to dial in that consistency. And when you go there, it doesn't matter if you do a workout or not. I want you to just step in, because the second you step in, you're going to start doing something. Even if the workout isn't proper, as long as you use the right training techniques, you're going to get much, much further than the guy who gives it his all every 2 weeks. Now, alongside this, you've got to know how to train. So training is very, very simple. When it comes to volume, your sets, I want you to go around like 5 to 10 per muscle, per week. Yes, per week. That may seem low, but that's because of the next thing, and that is intensity. I want you to be taking all of these sets to failure. And yes, failure when you're actually being safe, when you're not doing compromising form or potentially damaging yourself. That is just as important. But these two things is actually what's going to carry you. And this is how everyone who actually is making results and getting those gains is doing. When it comes to your rest, you need to be taking at least 3 minutes between these sets. If you're not going to get enough results. You're not going to get enough of a break, and you will not get the sort of results you're looking for. And I also want you to take really good care of your nutrition. This is going to be very important. If we want to stay basic right now, we can just say literally focus on your protein. Get about a gram per pound of body weight, and that's going to carry you for a long time. But obviously, you're going to continue to dial that in. You're going to continue to learn, and you're going to continue to watch videos from me and really work out how much protein and fats and carbs and calories you actually need. And then sleep 9 hours minimum. When I say 9 hours minimum, I mean that's how long you're in bed for. Of course, you're trying to aim for 8 hours of sleep, but typically that means you have to have a buffer hour to actually get to sleep and account for being awake in the middle of the night or going to the toilet or something. Yeah, the first thing I want you to start with, actually, to just make things a bit easier so you have to worry about putting together this routine, because that's not very easy to do, is watch because that's not really easy to do, is just watch the masochist split. This is something which is guaranteed to give you pain, but guaranteed to give you results. And that'll be in one of the corners. That is an absolutely awesome workout you can follow. But look, at the end of the day, stay on this path and you will get there. Just train hard and be consistent. If you think you've got a good enough workout and you're following the principles that I mentioned earlier, check out this nutrition video to really dial that up to speed as well.